right? Now, we ain't gonna play no games. All right? Check 1, 2, can you hear me? Check 1, 2, can you hear me? I need you to press a 7 if you can hear me. Press a 7 if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Wingapoo fam, can you hear me? Halito, can you hear me? Press 7 if you can hear me. All right. What up, Patriot? M. Nugent. All right. So listen, family, today is a special day. I've been building Moorish World TV 7 for over a year. I've been slowly building it, and I've been building it for the express purpose to give you unfiltered, unadulterated information. Moorish World TV started off just like we're doing here. It's just raw information, Moorish, Indigenous, whatever, and we just want people to have all the information that's available. This is how Moorish World TV started off, but Moorish World TV started off debating the lies and the misinformation. Well, this is not starting off debating any lies or any misinformation, though we will challenge misinformation. But this topic here is a topic that I am very interested in learning about. This topic is, what is the appropriate, I guess, description of us here in America? Is it, now, you know, I'm a Moorish American, that's a nationality, but what I'm talking about is tribal affiliation. Is it Indian? Is it Native American? Is it like, what is it? What is it? You know, we look at Dane Calloway, he has an argument. We look at Aboriginal TV, he has an argument. We look at it's another group that use the term Indians, Native Americans. I'm like, you know, I want to hear it from people who have studied this. I want to hear it from people who have been educated on the matter. And so there is no better person that has been studying this that I could bring to you. Now, with that being said, I know there's going to be some challenges. Like Nikki Sunflower, she says she's an American Indian. Now, with that being said, maybe Nikki Sunflower and her tribe would like to come on and express her lineage and what she subscribed to or what her tribe subscribed to. Who knows? But today we got Sister Phoenix Moon and Ishmael Bay. Can I get you? Now, if y'all really want this information now we can give the horse and pony show like other channels do. Like sometimes we have to do on Moorish World TV to knock the brains out of falsehood. And I say have to do. Sometimes we got to play them games with them crazy people. You know, but if you really want the knowledge to continue to flow unadulterated, I ask that you hit the thumbs up. I ask that you share this on at least 2 platforms. If you have 2 platforms, and bring the people in. This is not the horse and pony show. This is not, we're not going to play the games. We're not going to do that. We'll play those games on Moorish World TV to knock the brains out these weirdos. But right here, we just want raw information. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't challenge some of the information. That don't mean that some of the guests won't challenge me. That doesn't mean that. But we're going to be respectable adults and intellectuals when it comes to Moorish World TV 7, or you just won't be allowed to come on here and share your viewpoint. Not with us. So family, please thumbs up, and I ask you to share it twice on 2 platforms. That's what I normally do. I share it on, matter of fact, I shared it on 3. I shared it on Facebook, IG, and Twitter. And I ask you to do the same. So family, with that being said, we can't start a show without the intro. And I'm going to make a new intro for this channel too. But we can't start the show without the intro. Let's get the intro. I be that more you gon' remember. I'ma be that more you gon' remember. I be that more you gon' remember. To Harker Bay front line till the law call my
I be that more you gon' remember. I'ma be that more you gon' remember, that's right. I be that more you gon' remember. To Harker Bay front line till the law call my number. You a friend of the Moors, then you a friend of mine. I was told to watch my enemies, now hold my line. Those that speak against the prophet, they speak against me. And I'm speaking about the prophet over Drew Ali, who was the first to remind you and bind you back to Morocco, the mountains, Mississippi, and Quebec. Told you you wasn't black, proved it with straight facts. You tripping off trucks, you need to be tripping off that. Now here we go again, acting like you a slave. Family, see y'all tonight, 9:30. Let's go. I be that more you gon' remember. I'ma be that more you gon' remember. I be that more you gon' remember. To Harker Bay front line till the law call my number.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to another edition of Moorish World TV. And we have in the building Ishmael Bey, the doctor. Brother, on their platform, sometimes you got to carry that title, the doctor. Everybody else give it to themselves. Why not we give us the title too? You know what I'm saying? And we got the beautiful Miss Phoenix Moon. Now, let me say something about Sister Phoenix Moon. Now, I want y'all to all know that I'm about to do my usher and make a confession. I got to make a confession. I know her from being on my brother channel, my brother Sinetta. Sinetta is my brother. My father, his father was running around and we found out that we were brothers. So I'm here to make a confession that we fake like we're fighting. We're never really fighting. We only do that for views. And my brother had her on his platform, and that's how I'm familiar with her. And that's how you should be familiar with her. But if you're not familiar with her on Sinetta TV, then get familiar with her on Moorish World TV. So with that being said, before we get to my brother Ish, because we know Ish is a statesman of Moorish World TV. He is one of the building blocks of Moorish World TV. I am forever in debt to brother Ishmael Bey and Ali's men, Lord Abba, and all the Moors that I may have conflicted with. Only thing me and Ish never conflict. But the rest of them I may have conflicted later. But whatever the case may be, these are the pillars of Moorish World TV. Without Ishmael Bey, Sharif, Ali Bey, and Ali's men, and Lord Abba and brothers like that, there would be no Moorish World TV because they were in the beginning to help establish this Hopkins Bay and so many names I can't name. So I want to give my brothers their flowers now as we build up on this platform. But before we even go any further, brothers, I want my sister Phoenix Moon to introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your school of thought so we can set the tone as to what we'll be talking about tonight. So the floor is yours, sis.
Osio, thank you so much for having me. I'm going blind wherever cousin Ish go. He say we gonna pull up here, and that's where we at. It's so interesting to finally meet you because I certainly have been accused of being under your tutelage. So I'll take that as a compliment. You must be one tough act to follow. So I thought that was such a compliment. So it's nice to finally meet your acquaintance. I'm Phoenix Moon. I'm a Pamunkey and Chickahominy woman. I've been out here trying to correct a lot of information. My school of thought is grandma and grandpa. I'm consistent. I've always been there. I won't leave their side. I'm family oriented. I'm trying to put the band back together, showing people how to get to their genealogy so everybody can have this family reunion where we ain't got to ask who made the potato salad. That's it.
That's my type of language. Hey, Ish, you know, Ish, I tell people every time on Moorish World TV, I say, y'all gonna have to work with me. Sometimes I butcher words. Sometimes you might have to say you missed a T or an M on something that I post. Y'all might have to help me out. And so what she just did, she didn't miss a T or an M and she ain't butchered no words, but she took me to the cookout. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Metaphorically, she took me to the cookout. That type of stuff I like. You know, all them old big words, I'm not telling you, I confuse just took me to the cookout so we can eat some of this tater salad.
Plate. That's right, bro.
You gotta work with me too, Sister Phoenix. When I get a little bit excited, excited.
Yeah, I watched the video. I was up laughing. I'm telling you, I connected with your spirit. Your energy was high strong. You remind me of like my big brother, my uncle, and the smile. It was the smile for me. And you had jokes. We ain't gonna bring up that person's name, but I was right there. I was right there. So that was a good introduction.
Well, that's amazing. But I do anybody and any and everybody who has been following me for the last 5 years, y'all already know I'm just a natural spirited person. So if I get excited and you're not familiar with me, don't look at me like you said, how old is he? I hope he grow up. No, I'm not. I'm gonna live this life to the fullest, and I'm gonna enjoy it and express it the way I feel. And with that being said, I got the big bro here. Now, when you start talking about like knowledge and you start talking about presentation, I don't think in this field that there is many that I can compare to two people that have inspired me the most. I want to say three, but then one of them went left on me. Two people inspired me the most with knowledge and presentation together. That is Ishmael Bey and Ishmael Bay. Those two brothers inspired me the most when it comes to the knowledge and presenting it. The last one where people ain't gonna like it, I'm gonna give you an update on this guy because he's a wicked guy that went left. But before he went left all the way, Brother Polite could present information. Now, you will find out later that it was fugazi, flawed up, and pseudo. But the way that he presented it before we knew and doubled back in research, it would leave you in awe. Like, people are scared to really admit that the first time you ever seen this brother present information, you like, whoa. You know what I mean? Now you double back and be like, oh man, got me. Yeah, got me. You know what I'm saying? But so I can scratch that, but and leave that where it is. But Ish and Ishmael Bay, when it comes to digging in the crates and then dusting them off and putting that needle on a record and hearing that crackle and bringing it back, I don't see no comparison when it comes to that on this screen right here. And so I'm honored to have you here, brother. Why don't you tell him a little bit about yourself, brother? Because you've been traveling lately too. I be trolling you. What's the name? Even though I got your number, I troll your Facebook like a fan. Like, I can call you up while you in South America because you my man. But Facts. I troll you like a fan. Like, man, let me thumbs up this joint. So I'm going to yield the floor to you, brother. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you've been.
Brother Taharka, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for availing your platform to me just to come and share information with the family. You know your family to me. I love you, love your audience and your viewership. And it's so much better. You guys put that bow on the present when you got your cousin with you. So You really can't go wrong when you're giving a present to the people. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, brother. Just came back from South America. I spent some days in Belize last month, picked up some very valuable information. Again, it'll be a couple times where I'll be heading out to a couple places this year, 2023, heading out to Bonaparte temples in Mexico and just some very key locations. So I can just keep on getting that collection going. So I'm just on the road and taking care of things. Cousin Phoenix Moon was participating in the Indigenous parade that took place in New York City. And we're just covering so much ground as far as just making sure that we're representing, our positions properly and at the highest level. So we're just staying very, very busy, brother. The Moorish World TV, you invited me to come on in the earliest of days to just be a part of the research team and to do my part. And even when we first started, you would shy away from that title as, I'm not a scholar. Now you are one of the preeminent scholars because I don't know if you were, it's not only more than just applying the information, you move and you study and you carry yourself in a holy zeal. That's the spirit that people are seeing, that energy that you're seeing, and you apply that same energy in your methodology. So the things that you bring out, it's don't test him. And when you on that level of don't test him, you in the club. So you've been unearned your scholarship stripes. You can't use that excuse no more, brother. I'm talking to you. I'm gonna put it in the Baltimore lingo. I'm talking to you.
You know how we do.
So I'm very, very proud of you and for what you represent. But yeah, I'm Ishmael Bay, no doctor, no nothing. No, I'm Brother Ish. That's the highest title that you can get, and I get it in.
Yeah. Ish, let's start off first, and you and like I said, when you come here, a friend of yours is a friend of mine, a cousin of yours is a cousin of mine, so you can pass it to Sister Moon whenever you feel fit, or you can pass it back to Ish whenever you feel fit. Don't pass it to me, because I'm just going to ask you some questions so we can clarify this before the people. Brother, what is the difference between Aboriginal? Now I'm gonna name a whole lot, just was like on the flyer. What is the difference between Aboriginal, American Indian, Indigenous, and what else do we have? Native American. What can you help us understand some of these terms and how it relates to us, descendants from the inhabitants of Africa, descendants from the inhabitants of the Americas, and this, you know what I mean? We're indigenous to the world, to the planet. So how does this what does this mean to us, bro? If you could break it down.
Within that last comment of what you just made is the profoundness of it all. We're all indigenous or quote unquote Aboriginal to somewhere. Everybody is, right? Somebody's going to be Aboriginal somewhere. Now, what differentiates you is how are you Aboriginal to here? Okay. What tribe are you here? Since you can be Aboriginal anywhere and indigenous anywhere, what's tying you to this land? What's covering you as far as, are you of the lineage of those who signed the treaties? And if you are of the lineage of those who signed the treaties, what title did they go under? So that's what's tying you to the difference between a term like American Indian and a term that's kind of generic, like even Native American is generic because that's kind of a falsified label that they've placed on the American Indian in order to, again, you always have to look out for those who are trying to lift you off of this land. So that's going to be the difference between indigenous, Aboriginal, and American Indian specifically, because you're going to have to tie yourself to a specific tribe. Because in Phoenix, you want to add on to that at all?
I would say I agree. Your tribal lineage, that's your heritage. Different than the nationality. This is your ethnicity, what people you descend from. And a lot of people haven't really took the time to, kind of identify who their ancestors are and what does tie you to the land. So what I personally enjoy doing is showing people in the world how to find their folks. If you say you're a Moor, let's get you close to where the Moors come from. Where's that grandma and grandpa? They deserve respect. You an Egyptian? Let's get you back close to Egypt as we can get so we can see where the disconnect was, right? How'd you get here? Those details kind of go unnoticed, and people have, placed themselves in lanes that they might not have, they shouldn't have been in. And you need to be close to your family. Whatever it is that we're all doing, it all involves family. None of this is for us. So whatever it is that we're trying to create to make better, that's for our family, for our bloodline. You know what I'm saying? Again, I'm a no grandma killer kind of girl. I don't care where you come from, who your folks is. Pay them some respect, pay them some mind, and let's get honorable. That's really just it.
I definitely agree. And in this conversation, Brother Taharka, if you happen to see, the questions that may come up,
I'm looking right now.
Please feel free to include those. I'll kind of, toggle between both of them too. But we're here to answer any questions that the people may have. I think it's very important that if you are, making a claim on a position, you have to be able to stand on that too. So you can't just put out a term and then when somebody challenges you on it, you go back to the generic shop again. So
is it safe to say that the term Aboriginal, Indigenous, Native American, and all that is on the flyer are generic terms, but now you have to connect yourself to a specific tribe?
That's correct, because it all's going to tie into your lineage. What's tying you to the land? Are you saying that you're Cherokee? Are you saying that you're Seminole? Are you saying that, what tribe is it that you're claiming? Because people come from various tribes. Now, we have our petition that's taking place. And our petition, you want to expound on what the petition's taking place, Phoenix Boom?
Well, on our petition, we speak about the misclassified Indian and how we've pretty much just always had to fight to be. There's been some things we've been written in, written out, written back in, replaced, flip-flop, trading places, and still kind of left out of the loop. Now we are looking to get some remedy. We're looking to have a conversation and have some readjusted grievances. Certainly, I can just say one example specifically. The Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act. I can prove that I've been discriminated against by two words, Native American. Not because I'm not an American Indian, but Native American now means a person of a federally recognized tribe. So we are petitioning to show that there's discrimination, and it's basically forcing me to assimilate to Black, to white, Hispanic, or anything but American Indian. It doesn't matter because only Native Americans qualify for things that they don't need to qualify for. If they have reservations, why would they need public housing? Why would they need to be a part of urban housing and urban development? You know what I'm saying? Why do they need to get a DOI loan from the Department of Interior that should be guaranteed? It should be guaranteed to me at Public Indian Housing, which came through the Civil Rights Act, but because I'm not a Native American, I'm discriminated against. So a lot of these things, we're showing the examples of how we've been trampled on in our own country. And then they're trying to utilize different treaties, activate them now, that would take away from the Dawes Rolls, which most of us has been a barrier. Not that we weren't American Indian, but if grandma missed that last train to Oklahoma when they gave out the land patents, you were out of the club. So now they're using our bloodline for membership versus kinship.
Wow.
And the way we're addressing this, Brother Taharka, also is that we have a petition that's taking place. It's the remedy for the misclassified people of North America. Within that petition, it covers a broad base of people. So as you were just asking me about, the various tribes that we were just discussing, one of our supporters and the signers of it is Brother Kyrie Irving. So for Brother Kyrie Irving to sign the petition and then to place it on his Twitter page, he's identifying, although his lineage is coming from a different tribe. So he's understanding that the plight that faces him is the same plight that faces us. And then if somebody else to support us was Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. So she's using her platform because she can identify with this. Or we have people who are in their circles doing their part. But the reason why they're supporting it is because it's a relevant story from so many various angles. Each person has been misidentified or misclassified into a way that has to be addressed. And that's what we're putting forward.
Wow. So how big is this campaign? Because I'm looking on the internet and I see a lot of people are coming up with these channels, and it's kind of real foggy when you're dealing with social media today. Some people are just talkers and some people are doers. Very few are doers, though. So how big is this campaign to move on the legalities to express the needs of those who have been disenfranchised, if you will?
By God's grace, I would be satisfied if it was just 10 people.
Okay.
If it was just 10 people, it'd be a tribe of 10. And I go hard against them regardless. You know me. I'm the person who I don't care how big you are. I'm taking you down by myself. Right. But we got more than 10. We got more than 100. We got more than 500. We got more than 1,000. We got more than 5,000. We moving on to 7,500 and moving on to 10,000 and gonna move. So right now we're chasing the 7,500 amount and growing.
And the reason why I asked that, and I don't want all your numbers because we don't have to give all the information out. The reason why I asked that is because I want to use that as an example that most of these brothers and sisters that are in groups, whether it's in the Moorish Science Temple of America, Black Power organizations, they never even try to calculate numbers to move the meter. And without, the power is in the people. Without the people, there is no power. You know what I'm saying? And so I just wanted to underscore that. So, brother, how do you, as well as Sister Moon, how did you connect to your tribe? And what tribe is that?
My tribe started with the conversation with my grandmother. My grandmother, taught me my whole life. I got pictures on my website of us in the 60s. I'm talking about 1968. Us sitting on my grandma's lap. And then also on the website is the videos of my grandmother talking to me and giving us our family history. In that, she tells us that we're American Indian, and she actually wrote a book. She took our family history and wrote a book and presented it to the family. She wrote it in the 80s and presented it to us at the 1990 family reunion. So by her writing and documenting the history and knowing that particular history, she poured a lot of information of that into me, because I was partially raised by my grandmother, and she was raised by her grandmother. So we were actually skipping generations of bodies of knowledge because it tied back. My grandmother lived until she was 96. And her grandmother lived into a very old age also. So the information stayed in a pure state, and we always owned our family homestead in Alabama that we still own. So it's always tied into, how did Black people get that land in Alabama in the 1800s in the heart of KKK country? What was taking place, of how were you able to maintain and own that? Within that is a story itself, because if you were identified as an owner, you were normally targeted for lynching, because white people wanted the value of that land. So when you have the deeds and you still own the land, there's a story behind it, and there's documentation behind it. So in my specific category, it's going to tie into Muskogee Creek Indian history and Cherokee history. And the proof of it is the land that we still own. So that's how I became familiar with it. And Cousin Phoenix?
My grandparents I was raised by my grandparents for the most part. Those are my master teachers. My grandfather taught himself how to read. He came from Alabama. He stowed away on the train at 13, 14 years old. He found out his brother was in a bar fight in Harlem. So he got on the train all the way to Alabama, from Alabama to New York, and he never looked back. Self-made man. I got some straightening. I had my little summer youth job, and I bought me an X-Clan CD and Public Enemy, and you couldn't tell me nothing. And I went there with my little tape recorder and said, Pop, where we were slaves at? What kind of Africans was we? And they looked at me. My grandmother stopped playing solitaire on the other side of the bed and said, Child, we ain't no Africans. And what slave you talking about? We ain't no slaves. So I'm looking, kind of gave a little smart look like, Grandma, I'm not talking to you. I started my recorder over and said, Papa. He said, well, baby, we Indians. We're not slaves. My grandmother said, where'd you get it from? That this is their first discourse that I've ever seen. And my grandfather said she got it from school. Where else she getting it from? Because we ain't never told her nothing about that. And I left them to their devices. But after that, I knew, who I was. Like, it was no more of going outside and seeing all of the different things and different people and hearing them tell me that I was somebody else. I always held on to my grandparents' message. My father is Pamunkey and Chickahominy, very rich history. Him and my mother's lines, my maternal lines, crossed over 200 years ago before they met in 1970 something. So I've always known. My son got into this thing with the feds, and I started seeing how they were doing with our children and RICOing them and things like that. And it was some of the things that the judge said to me that just I never came back from. And he told my son, and I felt like he embarrassed my children's father and everything. You have a father, and your father's here in the courtroom. Like, they were like mad that my son had supportive family. So I learned about the law, and I realized how it's important that we identify, because they treat the Indian, there's supposed to be a certain protocol that they follow. And I realized that the disconnect was by us inappropriately letting them assign a race to us instead of making a declaration for themselves. So it was then I started to look back in the family history, connected with my grandparents' siblings that were still alive and all their children, and kind of put the band back together. I pressed my mama and my daddy and my aunties and all of them. And now they are my biggest supporters. And the family they're ready to get the band back together. And
let me ask you, Brother Tahaka, also. I've seen your beautiful mother on the show before also.
Absolutely.
Has she ever shared with you that if you ever had any Indian in your family at all? Has that ever been a part of the conversation?
That was about to be my next question.
For you. I'm locked in, bro.
Yeah, that was about to be my next question to you. So in my situation, my grandmother, I have the video. My grandmother passed from a few years ago at like 94. And I was privileged. I I've lived with my grandmother a few years. I went to school with my grandmother a few years. I was really, really close to my grandmother. I was really, really close to my great grandparents because my grandmother actually took care of them all the way to their transition. So I was beside my grandmother while she took care of her mother. She took care of her father all the way to the end. No nursing home, no nothing. And all the way to the end, I was beside my grandmother. You know, me and my cousin, we hooked up this weekend. Shout out to my cousin. We used to just go sit on a porch and just listen to my grandmother tell stories. So long story short, I wanted to ask my grandmother, due to the science that we learned in the Moorish Science Temple of America, that we have always been here. And so, you know, some people were bought by ship. We get that. But majority was already here. So I asked my grandmother, and I have it recorded. At this age, she's probably about 91. And I said, Grandma, I said, I can't watch it now because it's too emotional. But I asked her, I said, Grandma, has anybody ever narrated a slave story to you? You know, like, because if she's in the 90s, you know, my great grandmother named Ruby Queen, you know, you know what I'm saying? She passed away at an older age. I can't recall the age off the top of my head, but the next generation before her should have a slave narrative or something.
That's right. She's one generation removed. That's right.
And my grandmother said to me, no, all that our story starts that we've always been in what is known as Virginia. She was like, we came from Virginia to Maryland. And the reason we came from Virginia to Maryland, because Pop, which would be my great grandfather, got a job at the Naval Academy. He left Virginia, came to Maryland, got a job at the Naval Academy, and then the whole tribe family moved to Annapolis, Maryland. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I said to my grandmother, I said, I mean, is there just one story, you know, like someone said, you know, when they freed the slaves, we were happy. Like, no, we don't have a story like that. I've never heard a story like that. And she went on to say the only story that we have is when we moved to Annapolis, that there was the Ku Klux Klan that lived. They had meetings across at Camp Parole. That was it. She was like, but we don't have any of those stories. And I don't know any. She said, and I got it recorded, and I don't know anybody in my family has the real lineup of the family tree.
Yes, sir.
So the question I was going to ask you, I wasn't going to go that long with it, but the question that I wanted to ask you is, once we have that information, how do you connect yourself to identifying the actual tribe? Say a person like me who never, because in dealing with Moorish science, we deal with nationality as it's a status, but it's also can be bloodline. It depends on how deep you want to go with it. But even if with nationality, what people don't understand, even if you don't want to go through the strenuous task of identifying your bloodline, nationality is also a status. It's a legal status. You know what I'm saying? You can join, you can move into a country and become a part of that status, or in the Moorish Science Temple of America, that's a status. So Moorish American is simply a status, or you can go deeper with it. So the question is, how, say a person like me or people out there that's like me wish to say, you know, I never thought of that. I'm going to ask the elders in my family if there ever was a slave story. And if I don't find out that there's a slave story, how do they make that connection?
Legitimate question. So I would say the first thing to start would be surround yourself around people who have knowledge of what you're trying to obtain. When I was in the body of knowledge of dealing with even the African history, or just using the methodologies as far as scholarship of putting things together, when I would speak with my grandmother and we would have our conversations about our family history, She asked me, when are you going to use the skills that you have to represent us, to represent what we have? We have the land, we have the history. Are you going to do that? Was the challenge. And of course I accepted. I'll do anything my grandma tell me to do, right? But she didn't have to tell me nothing. She just had to ask and suggest, and that's all that's necessary for me, because I adore her. So I used those skills in order to bring it back, but it was always there, but I was able to focus on it with a laser-like focus. So the first thing to do, brother, would be to surround yourself with people who are proficient in studying the nuance of American Indian history. It's a very complex thing, because you may see something that be saying, well, so-and-so was a slave. But I can show you the documents where people volunteered to be slaves. There's areas where you would have people saying, I don't want to be free. And they would go to court, go to probate court, select their master,
Man,
and
cut
then
that out.
select. Bro, before we get off here tonight, I'm gonna post it up on the back chat for you to post for everybody to see.
I got you, bro.
You could select your own master and go and work for them as their slave. And they were
not indentured servant, slave?
Not indentured servants.
Wow.
Slaves. And the reason why you would do this, again, this is a nuanced conversation. There was a reason why you would do that. Some people's reason was for job security. If you were out here, you were free, you're now fair game. They were taking free people and enslaving them. The brutal crackers, not the nice ones, the brutal ones. So you might say, well, I'm going to select Dr. So-and-so because he's a good man and I want to be his slave. So you would actually choose to be his slave. Or in other parts of the South, after you were free, after a certain amount of time, you had to go. They gave you like 6 months, 3 months, and you up out of here forever. Now say your family is still enslaved. If your family's still enslaved, you will choose slavery to stay with your family. Say you're like 50, 60 years old. What you gonna do in their mind? What you gonna do? So now you choose. So you got to understand and dig into the genealogy and the nuance of that conversation. Some of it is pain. I got some family members that were owning other family members because they were of the European persuasion owning slaves. Or the 5 quote unquote civilized tribes. The reason why they were called civilized is because they were slave owners. That was a major part of it. So that's why they're in our lawsuit. We getting it. Okay. You own slaves, you own other Indians even. So it's a very complex situation on that.
Brother, what and maybe we Sister Moon could chime in too. What is the definition of an Indian? Because many times we will hear the argument that they call the people Indians because they look like the people of India. What is the conversation today about the term of our people being Indians here?
Well, I'll say they sure put a lot of details and bells and whistles on it just to be. American Indian, a person whose origins are of the original peoples of North, South, Central America, including the Caribbean, who maintains tribal affiliation and community attachment. No other race has all of those stipulations.
Yeah, exactly. But did the people identify themselves as that? The people
yes,
here.
Their ethnicity and what type of Indian. The earliest treaty that I saw from my family was 1644 Chickahominy Indians, Paw Monkey Indians. So their race is American Indian, and then of course their ethnicity or tribal affiliation.
Okay. What do you, Brother Ish? When we talk about the Aboriginal or the Indigenous, because we got a lot of groups to say that they're Aboriginal and Indigenous. Is there a difference between the two? Those terms. Now you say they're like generic terms as it relates to not really connecting the exact tribe. But what is the difference that it seems so important for people to use those different terms?
Both in one sense are going to be tying you to the land. And you may have It depends on context. As Moors, we know how important that is, about the context and how things are used. In the context of Aboriginal, that's perfectly fine. You have an Aboriginal title to land that supersedes basically anything that's coming against you. Also, you have to consider that historically, you had a choice before Oklahoma became Oklahoma. You had the option of it being called Indian Territory and Aboriginea. Those were the two options. They chose to go with Indian Territory before it became Oklahoma. But if you look up the history of what Aboriginea, that was going to be the name of Oklahoma. So there is, in context, a time where the American Indian and Aboriginal, of course, can coexist. Also, on that back chat, I'll post it up about people choosing to be slaves, like I told you I was going to do. so the links in the back up there for the people to see it. It'll say when Alabama turned up the heat on free blacks before Civil War, some of them chose slavery. That's the name of the article.
Wow. Yeah, I shared it.
In that, it'll show about the people who chose slavery and the different contexts of them choosing to be slaves, giving up their freedom to be slaves. So you may come across some documents and just leave it at that and say, oh yeah, they were slaves. No, you have to understand a nuanced part of the conversation and don't just go with the stereotypes. Don't do that. Don't rob yourself, because your ancestors are speaking through you and you're representing them. So just like your beautiful grandmother poured information into you, you're her voice. I'm my grandmother's voice. Phoenix Moon is her ancestors' voice. So we have an obligation to make sure that we are digging as far as we can to represent them in the most precious way.
100. So what I did was I want to show, because I definitely be deeply when you come into knowledge, man, you be deeply proud of who you are when you start to understand a little more. So this is a picture of my great grandmother right here. This is Ruby Queen right here. I'm looking for a picture of my grandmother now, but this is Ruby Queen. You know what I mean? No perm, no nothing, silky black hair. I mean, nah. I mean, no.
Yes, sir.
This is Ruby Queen. And so I've done extensive research, on my family, but I've never done it to the point to get straight to identify the actual tribe. You understand? Right. And so that's the bridge that I think a lot of people is going to have to cross. And one thing I want to express to Moorish Americans is Moorish American covers a broad ideal. All the tribes can fit in there, because again, Moorish American is a nationality. It's just like when you stamp your passport to go somewhere and a Chinese person born in America stamp their passport to go somewhere. If you are a citizen here in this country, your passport is going to say the same. Right. And you ain't got to be of the same direct origin or lineage. And so if our people say, okay, let's get with this indigenous Indian ideal. I like what Sister Moon said, but how does, from Ish perspective, she talking about getting this thing straight, getting this food back on the table for the cookout.
That's right.
What I mean? Is that what this is all about? Reclaiming that has been lost? Or is it more about reconnecting to the identity, or both? You know what I mean? Reconnecting to the identity. We're lost. We're lost as a people. 1 minute we Hebrew, 1 minute we Moor. Like a lot of people don't even know, just like I just expressed about being a Moorish American, a lot of people don't even know that being a Moorish American doesn't put you in the box. Right. It doesn't block you out from your tribal identity. It just doesn't. You know what I'm saying? So is it about the identity, about reclaiming that was lost from a monetary perspective, or is it a collective of both? And how do you move on it?
I would indeed say that it's all of the above. It's taking back what was stolen. And for you to take back something that was stolen from you is justice and retribution. Absolutely. It's something that you're entitled to. It's something that you have a right to. You know, we are, many of us, those people that every colonizer saw when they got here. When the first immigrant got here, they saw people who were our ancestors, many of us. So we're obligated because we have a right to ownership. And we were doubled down on the injustice by other people who sold us out to get the bag. That's just keeping it funky.
Right.
So if you made a deal to isolate the people who look like me, who look like that person on that wall right there, they don't look like those people who you call chief. They're my complexion. That person's darker than me, and I'm a chocolate individual. But if these people are here, but yet they were enslaved, they were written out of history, but yet they have a history here, and they are the original owners of this land. Absolutely, we're here to take back what was stolen from us. We have a right to do that.
So does that happen? Now, where does that start at? Does that start on a local level or a federal level?
That starts on a local level because it's Cousin Phoenix Moon, who is a forensic genealogist, and a team of us are here to work along with her. Right. For you to come with your family history, we say, give us what you have so that we can find out where it ties to. Oh, you got this surname? Okay, let's get it over here. Because things are tied to tribes that can be tied by surnames, by locations. So it's our job we already know where, okay, oh, you from here? Okay. We already can isolate where you might be and where you might not be. So by process of elimination, we start narrowing down instantly. Okay. And we start narrowing, I'm telling you, we lock in. You shoot us that information. Number one, it's private. Number two, it allows you to tell your family story. It's your lineage is what's going to tell your story for generations to come. So we're talking to 7 generations later with everything we do, everything we say, and everything we represent.
And for me, my family. I mean, family is not like it used to be. We all can say that. You know, the world has changed a little bit, and people seem to be so busy. But my family is tight knit. I mean, like it's tight knit. My family is so tight knit that my grandmother used to say, I used to call my grandmother prejudice because my grandmother used to say, stay away from them. Like, Grandma, what you talking about? Like, stay away from them, and you stay away from them. And don't you bring none of them home. My grandmother was like, my grandmother had this native indigenous spirit that she felt, and I can say it now as I think back, she felt robbed. She felt robbed, and she felt misidentified, and she couldn't put her finger on it. I can say it now when I look at the videos in the past, and I could tell she felt robbed and misidentified because there was no history that could connect my people to this this slave experience. That's not to say that some along the way didn't get caught up, like you said. You know what I'm saying? But my immediate family, they don't really connect right there. You know, with the story. There is no story there. Mm-hmm. There is no story whatsoever. It's like it draws a blank, and I'm gonna try to get all that stuff together for you. It draws a blank in Virginia.
Yes.
And they always been in Virginia.
Yes. And that's not an isolated incident. I don't want you to think, brother, that that's an anomaly. What happens is that there was an influx and a barrage of misinformation and propaganda that lifted you off of this land. Again, I was born in 1967. I was in school when they bombarded us with the propaganda of roots. We didn't know that it was a plagiarized story, but it was brainwashing. They would put us in the classrooms. We didn't sign no damn waiver. My mother didn't have no say-so over that. They put us in the room, bombarded us with this narrative, and then bombarded it on ABC, and then made him a superstar, gave him a Pulitzer Prize. If the shit's fake, why didn't you at least take back the Pulitzer Prize?
Right.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to say the S
You're
word.
good, brother. That's right. Let it flow.
No,
Let it flow.
no, I'm just saying that why didn't you at least take that back? So it was a fraudulent thing, but the mission was accomplished because the damage was done. So the things that you're explaining, I don't want you to think that you're by yourself or that you're some anomaly, because you're not. We tell our stories and we started to see the correlation between the falsehood. That's where the power comes in. Cousin Phoenix, you want to add on?
Yes, I would say Virginia is not going to be hard to find. Let me tell you, they wrote so much stuff down. Again, my family, both sides, maternal and paternal, completely Virginia. The ties are there. Your grandmother's beautiful. Let me just say that. I just felt like a hug looking at the picture. Those pictures just make you feel like you're getting a hug, you know?
Exactly.
So we're so 6 degrees of separation from each other. Like, I don't even remember how we started speaking about our genealogical different lines or whatever. And I'm bringing up this one particular grandmother, and that's how cousin Ish and I are related via Sahoy from the Muskogee Wind clan, right? So
that's right.
And that's not the only ancestor. That was the one that we like immediately connected with, right? So there are others that we are connected through like 20, 30 different lines. My cousin Tasha's in the chat. My cousin David is down there. We are related like 30 times over. I think I stopped counting after like, okay, you related to them? We're the same? Yeah. I stopped after like 20 different common ancestors. So our family has grown. My mother is already 1 out of 18. So I have 100 first cousins, you know, just on my maternal side alone. So I'm not looking for friends. My family is there. But now that we've connected these common ancestors through the history of us all being misclassified and attaching ourselves to the ones that actually sign these treaties, that means something. There's a reason why they disconnected all of us, and you know, they called us everything except Indian, and they left it up to us to be self-determined, able to self-determine. But for the most part, for the first couple of 100 years, our folks had no way of determining anything that they were putting down on those pieces of paper. So them not calling us Indian and calling us Black and mulatto and Negro and this and that was so that they can usurp us, and we'd always have taxation without proper representation. They can't make any allocations for the Indians that were absorbed into the state if they're not calling anybody Indians. Virginia said there's no Indians here. They didn't give everybody smallpox blankets. They took their pen and blacked them out.
And then let's ask that question right quick, if I may, Brother Tarka. Has anyone ever had any ancestors that died in abundance from smallpox? They run that narrative that millions and millions and millions of Indians died of smallpox. I've never heard one. I've traced my ancestry back to 1482 so far. And that's only because I stopped looking. I just like, all right, I'm sick of it. I'll come back to it later. It was very emotional, taking a toll on me. So, but nobody, I even have affiliate tribes, smallpox. But yet millions of people were supposed to be killed from this. So that's my question to the audience. Have y'all come across any ancestors in the past that died of smallpox? Brother Taharka, what were you about to say, brother? My apologies.
What was funny to me as I was coming up into the ranks of the understanding of the Moorish Science Temple of America was I deal in Baltimore. I do home improvement, and one thing that I pay attention to is I go in and out dealing with a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? Dealing with Section 8s, getting people, helping people get their benefits. When I mean benefits is, you know what I mean, got to drop off the paperwork. And so I deal with a lot of different people, typically in hood areas with urban areas, right? And one thing that I've noticed is we have a unique phenotype of all sorts. Like you actually can identify, and I had a lot of African customers too. You see, I had a lot of people of India. I had, you know what I mean, people here in America, customers. So I've been privileged to be around a lot of different phenotypes of Asiatics, if you will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A lot of different phenotypes, right? And one thing that I've noticed is when you're dealing with Africans from, say, Nigeria, many of them look alike.
Yes.
They have typically the same bone structure, the same round head, typically they look alike. You know what I mean? They don't look like 100% alike, you know what I'm saying? But typically they resemble each other. Ghana, Kenyans. And one thing that I notice here is that there is a phenotype here where when I look at Phoenix Moon, I can actually see my grandmother. Yeah. Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
I can actually see that. When I look at my grandmother's side on my father's side and her father, I can see you. There is a certain phenotype that I begin to pay attention to. I begin to pay attention to hair texture because the nappy hair texture is that of the more of the equator demonstration in Africa. We know that. Not all hands down, you know, but you know, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I begin to notice that we do have I'm gonna get to my point. We do have a large population that are clueless about their roots of being here before anybody else was here. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. Right. One of the things that boggled my mind is that the European red type Indian that they sell us, supposed to have been so abundant, but they appear to have disappeared. And today, the people that's calling themselves Indians on reservations look no different than a European. Most of them. You know what I mean?
They look like colonizers.
They look like Europeans.
Yeah.
And one thing that really bothered me was that what happened to y'all really killed all of them, as you said, with smallpox, or did they blend them all in to the Negro black slave narrative?
That part.
Do you understand what I'm saying? That's where we got to wake up to. But this is my question. Does that, because I love my African connection.
Right.
I ain't letting none of that go. I'm not letting that divide us. We in this fight together in my book.
Yes.
Why is it in this conversation that people also deny the slave trade? Because it actually happened. So most people that I see that's called the Indian or the Aboriginal concepts and all of these things, they also deny the slave trade, but the slave trade actually happened. There is recordation of that. Is there a medium that can be met so all of us can get this fight going?
I would say that humbly. I think people misunderstand the position from the majority of the people who deal with the slave trade and their positions of it. I don't know of people who say the slave trade didn't happen.
Oh yeah,
the people that I know. No, let me
not
explain.
You know, but I'm just saying it happens though.
Right, but let me explain. I said the majority of people who come from the position that challenge the slave trade, they say that it didn't happen the way that people said that it happened, not that it didn't happen at all. A wise person really would not speak in absolutes. You'd be playing yourself if you did. Absolutely. So if you're saying that it didn't happen, of course, there's going to be people who can actually trace their lineage to an actual slave ship. There are lineages of people that can do that. The problem is, as soon as you start saying Umgawa, Black Power, I'm super African, and we challenge you on that to tell you to prove it,
right?
Most of the time it crumbles like a house of cards. Because the records are so few and so few people came that way. Right. The reason why you can find a Clotilda is because it was so few that you can actually trace this one specific ship that lost a board off a coast of and now you start putting a whole storyline behind it. But the reason why you can identify them is because it was such an isolated incident. Because if you want to add on to any of that?
I would just say that I think it's people not being honest in what they're saying, because there's no way that you can say that there was no slave trade. It's
right.
It's disingenuous. You know what I'm saying? Now, and then to not give people the details, like you can't just say, oh, well, it didn't happen that way. Well, how did it happen? Right? You should be able to explicate that, especially with the emotions that surround that particular topic with people, right? Being honest, but also include the fact that so-called white people were also slaves and were a part of the transatlantic slave trade. Right. Absolutely. So I think that people kind of try to hide things, and maybe that's why, again, that being disingenuous, that's why they would say something like that. And to me, as a genealogist, that's irresponsible to say that to people. It's hurtful, and it's not true. You know, it's not
Agreed.
true.
Sister Phoenix Moon, and once tracing your genealogy back to your tribal affiliation, do any of the customs of yesterday are being implemented today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are some of those customs?
Definitely the harvest, the get-togethers and things. Like I can, now that I'm older and I've been able to see certain things in my family that have never left, even though they didn't say we were Indian every day. They showed me there's things that only Indians did. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of opens up for people to be able to expand into what it is that, because every tribe is different. And people are related to a multitude of different tribes. So when you find out, after you do your genealogy and you have your information and because you have to decide which tribal affiliations are you going to, that you connect with, right? And with that, you have to know some of the history, some of the customs, and some of the things that were wiped out, especially for the Eastern woodland tribes outside of the 5 civilized tribes, because people tend to only know about the 5 civilized tribes. When you say Pamunkey, when you talk about other smaller tribes, they really kind of go blank in that aspect, especially in Virginia. How many tribes were in Virginia? Hundreds and hundreds of tribes in Virginia, and they kind of got shriveled down into about 6 or 7. That doesn't mean all of the people disappeared. They either got absorbed or they got left out. And for most part, people in Virginia, like me and my family, we got left out.
Right.
And how many people have stolen our history?
Right.
You know, when you talk about the people who hijack and create their own identity so that they can try to fit into the narrative. What about the Italians? They say they talk about pizza comes from them. They talk about spaghetti sauce comes from them. The tomatoes from America.
Yeah.
If the tomatoes from America,
Potatoes not Irish at all.
No, I mean we fed them. It was the Choctaws who were feeding Europe the potatoes when they couldn't feed themselves, or when the Chinese couldn't feed themselves. They had to eat off of the sweet potato that came from the Americas to survive. Pull up the sweet potato famine and see who fed them when they couldn't feed themselves. Right. So all of these people eat off of us, and then they steal an identity. And then when we say, well, we're the sweet potato people, or we're the grits, or we're the maple syrup, and we're the, then they say, well, you're a pretender. You don't know what you're talking about. No, we're the origin of all of that. But they've stolen the identity, is the point.
I feel like a lot of people have done that to feel, they feel like if they can minimize the Indian in us, it maximizes the Native American in them somehow. And it's not that we want the same things. We don't have the same wants. We don't want casinos. We don't have the same drive. We want restoration, right? And some dignity restored back to our people. I know for sure my grandmother did not get to be the Indian that she was. It's my job to make sure that the Indian never goes back to sleep. We're not going back into exile anymore.
Y'all got me in this. Do anybody in here know my birth name. They call it the government name. Do anybody know? I play it every day on my show when I started. I was born Toronto. That's an Indigenous American Indian name.
Yes, yes, it is.
That's
Yes,
not a French name. That
That's
name Toronto was there when the French came to Canada. That's my birth name. It's my real name. It's Toronto. You know what I'm saying? It actually means the meeting place. You know what I mean? It's spelled different back during the time of the ancestors. So, but it's actually mean the meeting place. You know what I mean? Of the great. But anyway, nevertheless, most people that I see on the internet that talks about the Indigenous and the Native American and the Aboriginal American, many of them don't know the customary practices of these things. If I was to ask I hear these arguments all the time about Indigenous, not African, this, that, and the third. If I would ask one of them, what type of rock do you use for a sweat lodge? They would be lost. Is there a movement to also bring the custom back? I actually know how to do a sweat lodge. I actually know the rocks to use. I actually know how to build a sweat lodge. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is there a movement also to bring back the customs? Because the customs also reinforces the ideal of the identity. You know what I mean? Like one thing I know that's lost in our Moorish circle is many people will talk law, many people will talk Moors did this and Moors did that, but they don't have no traditions, they don't have no customs, they don't have, only thing they have is their fez, is their robe and their Islam. And I'm sorry, Moors, I gotta call it how it is. Without the customs and without the culture, the information seems to just fall to the wayside. Is there also a movement to bring back the traditions, the customs, and the culture?
I think that's.
Again, I'm
Please
sorry,
go ahead, cousin. No, after you.
Again, I think that would be a matter of what they find in their genealogy, right? So I have the Stewart line. This is one of my European lines that married into my American Indian family. I don't call King James a Moor, but I know he looked more like George Jefferson than he did George Washington, right? Then his father, Lord Henry Darnley or Henry West, he also looks a little different, a little darker than Trevor Noah, but he has these different features that are not your typical so-called African or typical European features, but this is who they are nonetheless. So when it comes down to who are they related to, and that leads towards Italy and different lineages, different houses, the House of Savoy, that would give me a way to connect with that particular Moorish ancestor, right? Because there's going to be things there that are attached to that particular family line that probably occurs in my life, and I don't know where I get it from until I'm able to articulate that portion of my family history and, you know, see where we get these different genetic things, these ancestral things that get passed down to us randomly.
Right. So on your end, Ish, with the Native American Indian and the tribal talk, do you see anybody actually practicing any of the culture?
Yeah, like I said, you know, Cousin Phoenix and them goes to, you know, like you'll catch us at going to powwows because we fellowship.
That's
with,
what I'm saying, right? Yeah,
we fellowship with, you know, American Indian tribes, and even in our own social circles of how we interact, we're using the phrases. We're getting familiar with being able to get accustomed to speaking the languages on a more fluid type of a level, and we're taking our baby steps to make sure that we're able to represent our culture and to make sure that we're able to pass that down. So I have people like Kevin Thompson, who's an actual linguist, you know, with the Muskogee Creek, and he actually teaches phrases online, you know, and we fellowship with people who are actually speakers of the language and people that we refer to when we're trying to do research of, do you know what this word means? Or we run to them and, you know, they may be in the Seminole tribe and things like that. So yeah, we have our own network of how we're getting back familiar with the heritage, because that is a major part of what we're supposed to represent.
Absolutely. And I say that I say that with conviction, because a lot of times, you know, Ish, you know, with this Moorish thing, you was there from the early days where the stories with you and Sharif used to tell me, man, how y'all was moving on the Moorish law and this and that.
That's right.
And even in today's world, you know, a lot of people still move on that, and a lot of people that I see on the internet, they move on this conversation about being indigenous to the Americas as an Indian or whatever, but you never see them practicing the culture. You know, which should be a part of your advancement. You mean the advancement? So the network is good, but I got a comment in there. They said somebody said, I guess you came in late, but I'm gonna start to ask some questions from the comment section. Somebody say, "Cool, Ishmael was a Moor." I really just covered that a minute ago, but I'll let Ishmael Bey handle that. How is it when people say, okay, Ish, you were part of Amen Ra Squad, which comes out of ancient Kemet?
I'm the co-founder of Amen Ra Squad. There's a difference.
I mean, I'm trying to see. I would say
it's the name I came up with. That's
I would say you founded it because some people can't even read, but that's another thing. Anyway,
funny, yo.
I'm trying to be nice here because this is a different program. But okay, you're the co-founder of the Amen Ra Squad.
Correct.
Which comes out of Amen Ra, comes out of ancient Kemet.
Right.
You're formerly a member of the NOI.
That's right. I was assistant minister of Las Vegas, number 75. That's right.
You also identify with the Moors.
That's right. Ishmael Bay for over 30 years. Get your weight up. You can't have a conversation unless you don't put in a couple decades. That's right.
And today you are in the indigenous, Indian, Native, Aboriginal, tribal fight.
Oh, that's funny.
So I'm trying to put it in perspective. Somebody just wrote in the comment, I ain't say nothing about no unk. Y'all leave me alone. Anyway, what do you say to people? How do you express that these, we will call them school of learnings, if you will.
Okay.
And then you lead up to where you're at today. How do you express that?
Yeah, I'm Ishmael Bay from Syracuse, New York. I'm also a New Yorker.
Right.
So are you in New York or are you from Syracuse, New York? I'm from Syracuse, New York. Are you from Central New York? Yeah, I'm from Central New York. But you live in Las Vegas. Yeah, I'm a Las Vegan too. I don't allow somebody to define who and what I am. Somebody will sit there and try to tell you, you can't say that you're an Indian. Bitch, I just did. What? So you're going to try to define for me what I am. I told you, for anyone that was listening, I've been told since 1968, sitting on my grandmother's lap, who I was. My grandmother was telling me I was American Indian before I ever even created Amen Ra Squad. The video's from 2008, okay? That was before any of that even happened. So if I was being told in the 60s that I'm American Indian, again, it's not mutually exclusive. I've been Ishmael Bay the whole time for the last 30 plus years, no matter my school of thought, even in the Nation of Islam, I was Minister Ishmael Bay. That's me. That's who I am. So you trying, or anyone trying to put a limit on a person's journey in the school of thought, you're robbing yourself and you misunderstand that which you think you know. But if you go to my site, you'll understand that it's, again, various schools of thought that's leading you on the same path. To be Moorish American means that I've identified some part of my lineage that is Moorish. If I'm a Stewart and I understand the genealogy of Stewart and the Zwart means black, and these blacks of Europe who are running through, that's a Moorish bloodline. Now, you know, Brother Taharka, I've never been in the Moorish Science Temple. Is that right?
That, brother, that's the, I like, bro, you just hit me with the nation. Is that right? Is that right? That's right, brother.
Is that right? Right. So my point is this. People may say, well, you've been in the Moorish Science Temple. No, I've never been in the Moorish Science Temple. I've had my Moorish identity because that's who I am. That's a part of who I am. My grandmother told me we had part African in our bloodline. I embrace that. And we embrace anyone who finds that in their lineage. We're not anti anything. We're pro family and lineage, and wherever your lineage leads to, that's by Allah's grace. So yeah, I was in the Nation of Islam until they decided to join with Scientology, and then I banged on Scientology until I beat that stuff back. So that's a part of my journey as far as my religious growth. But I've always been cool with members of the Nation of Islam. I have family that are in the Moorish Science Temple, and I love the Moorish Science Temple because it teaches me something that makes me a better me. And that's the only thing that matters.
Indeed. How about you, Sister Phoenix Moon? Where have your journey come from when you look on social media? Because, you know, many people will see us on social media. For me, I came around. I'm what they call a Akbar come lately. Not a Johnny come lately. Ishmael been around forever. You know what I'm saying? I've been a part of the Moorish Science Temple of America of some sort since the 90s. You know what I mean? Since I was like 17 going on 18. I didn't always get it right. Don't get it twisted. But, you know, on the internet, I'm probably like maybe 5-6 years in. So many people been around longer than me. So I don't know about your journey on the internet, but on your journey on the internet, if one see you other than in the indigenous tribal conversation before then, how do you approach that?
I'm trying to actually get out of battle mode. I didn't have to beat heads from the first time I said something about me being Indian. I've been having to
I know that's right.
Between so many men so angry with this energy, like I owe them money. Okay. Right. I've never seen so many strangers go out of their way to be hateful, right? And again, I'm undefeated. I know they be feeling some type of way, but it be men, it be women, they just jump me, they done dox me so much, and I still beat their ass with truth. And I do it with old dead people. Grandma and grandpa beat their ass every time. I don't like coming like that. I really come to just give the information. But sometimes the people that have been holding the microphone really tight, even though they ain't really had nothing to say, they get really, really loud, right? So they have these little outbursts and stuff like that. Look like some of them in the chat have an outburst right now. But one thing, and I said this 8 years ago when I came on the scene looking for a crook, Hemoxila took $75 for me, and I came to the internet to bust some heads, okay? But one thing I can
say... That's why Sadetta said what he said about you, because that's why I came to the internet. I'm for real, ain't it, Ish? I came to the internet
that's a truth.
Rectify.
That's true. Yes.
But go ahead, sis.
So that's where I came. I came chasing the crook. I didn't know I was going to run into the lion's den. I didn't know that there was all these people that were saying they were Indian and Aboriginal were going to give this man shelter, right? And he was wrong. And then I had to point out. So I took a lot of abuse over the years because I had to put myself out there, and my twin sister ain't forgiving none of these folks for this. But I had to show an example of how, I don't know what the word is, but how they really are. I had to show it by example. So yeah, I might have looked like I was getting beat down and all that, but I'm built for that. I like to fight. My stepfather thought I was going to be the first girl in the Golden Gloves. I keep telling them, and I'm from New York. Can't they tell? You know what I'm saying? But they come at me and all of that, and I think they thought they was going to put me down. And I just keep getting back up, and I keep putting more truth out there. The amount of haters is never going to amount to the number of people that we help, and that's really all I care about.
My thing is, Ish and Sister Phoenix, why is the haters? This is kind of off topic just a little bit, but on topic. Why are the haters so vicious? Why don't they just bring scholarship and prove you wrong and shut you up? They're real vicious. They just nasty when they disagree. Do you ever think we'll get to the point where as though we can have an intellectual conversation and you can show the receipts and we can walk away? Somebody gaining some more information to further their education without the nonsense?
I would hope so.
In the perfect world, this should be like that. But you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But the thing is this, as long as it's out there, they can never say nobody tried, right? And that's where I'm at with it. Now I've learned to set it and forget it, because people will always try to bring you backwards and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I set it and forget it. I got a video diary. You can see my growth. You can see my maturity. You know what I'm saying? And grow with me. We all doing it together. You know what I'm saying? But one thing, again, I'm going to say, I'm consistent when it come down to grandma and grandpa business. I don't go away from it. I don't care how many men they call me, what they say, what they talk about. They cannot do nothing with the information, right? They can't do nothing with it. They can't debunk it. All they can do is just be mad. And unfortunately, instead of them getting active and doing good deeds, it just sends them in a tizzy. But it activates the people that have plenty to hide. All of the people that didn't want us to be called Indian, those are the only ones mad. Those people that probably don't have a big history outside of being on those reservations, outside of the Dawswells, when it come down to where they was at next to us in Alabama, you think them people got a location? They ain't got no GPS pin for that. So that's where I think they have a problem, because it's not what I can prove, it's what they're unable to prove.
And I think that's very important, Brother Taharka, because as we were talking earlier about an example I want to use for the public to see is what Brother Kyrie went through, because he's our brother and he supports us and we support him. But what you find is, if you look at the timeline, in October, he posted about our petition. And he not only posted it, but he wrote his support about it. So a person not only reposts something, but they stand on it. After that, he posts the Hebrew post. Right after that.
Oh, it was
After
right around that time?
The next post.
Wow.
After that, you saw what he caught on the Hebrew post, and he still kept our post up. Then you post the Hebrew post, because we're talking about what you can stand on, is the point that I'm trying to make. He can stand on his mother was born on the reservation. There ain't no doubt about it. You're standing on your tribal identity because it's federally recognized. You got the support, you got the land, you have the identity, you have the birthright. Then you post something that you, quote unquote, can't necessarily stand on. You lose endorsements, you lose millions of dollars, you catch hell, all kinds of things. Then, out of the love for us, he just posted our petition again last week, showing more love.
Double down.
Yes. And allowing to network with your sisters and your brothers. So you're standing on what you know you can represent, and no one can stand against you when you do that, because you're rooted in truth. And when you're rooted in truth, that's why he was challenging them. He was asking the public, are you going to keep that same energy about 300 million of my ancestors that you're standing on? And they didn't challenge him on that. And there's a truth in that, because you're standing as an American Indian. It's all a win, baby. So I just wanted to point that out as an example of the same person, but catching two totally different reactions. Your mic is off, brother.
This is interesting. We're coming up on an hour and a half, family. I want to really do this again. I know. See, Ish got this type of schedule. He's a big deal, man. Y'all don't know Ish like I know Ish. He's a big deal, man. We got to get him in here, because I think this is just scratching the surface of the conversation. And I know Sister Phoenix Moon has so much more to bring to the table. I'm looking at the comment. We got thick skin here, so there's no comments here that's going to stop this conversation, no matter what you say. You know, you're welcome to even join the conversation at a later date. We just ask that you be respectful and you bring knowledge as well as receipts if you feel that strong about it. Because if it comes to a receipt show, you know how we do here. You know how we do. You know how we do. So, Ish.
Yes, sir.
Can we and Phoenix Moon, can we do a part 2 as I dig into some of the questions that's going to come up, and we'll take it from there. And would you be up to, if someone wanted to be respectful and have a dialogue, no debate, no debate. I want to debate anybody about Moorish, unless Ish want to debate anybody about whatever he wants to debate, but this is not a debate. We want to have a conversation, because in our community, we have too much conflict when the information is readily available.
Valid point.
I mean, what we conflicting about? Let's just show the information.
Let's just show the information. Now we can't ignore the fact it's not an elephant in the room, because I mean, it's not an issue to me, but DNA is a question.
There you go.
So I mean, if you got a hard question, or you got something you want to ask, or if the audience has something they want to ask,
and the thing is,
because it's a topic that needs to get addressed, and Cousin Phoenix Moon has had the doctors on her show who have eloquently gone through this for hours, multiple times. So if you have questions about it, let's put it on the table.
And put it on the table, and we can go even a step further. We got one of the best DNA guys in the business, Mr. Kittles. We could even bring him back and talk about some stuff if y'all wanted to do it. But at the end of the day, we need to have these conversations, because right now, and I'm gonna tell you, the European is having the conversation to remix the identity of each and every one of us. They're going to play with the Moorish identity. They're going to play with the tribal affiliation identity. They're going to play with all of the connections that connect you to your divine heritage. That's what they're going to do. And if we don't have these conversations, guess what? They have the upper hand on us, because we haven't even had these conversations with those who are qualified to make to make us or compel us to dig into our own history. Because after the show, I'm ready to start putting my stuff together and send it to Sister Phoenix Moon. I don't know what y'all doing, but that's what I'm about to do, because I've already, I told you, like, I can tell people stuff about myself that they wouldn't even be a clue. I can build a sweat lodge. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I can what they call a TP. I can build a TP. I can cut down a tree and I can build one. There is a masterful science behind it. When this is Ish, I'm not playing. I don't share a lot of this.
I'm with you,
Ish. I don't share a lot of this. Family, when you look at that, you ain't looking about nothing but this, brother.
Yes, sir.
This is what you're looking at. This is my Adap charm.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Ish. The thing is that these conversations, in Sister Phoenix Moon, these conversations are very important to our people.
Yes.
They don't even know how important it is. And even those who get upset and get mad, they still should come here and voice it, so we can have that conversation. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody think that something is off, you're welcome to come here. Just be respectful. Let me read this for Sister Phoenix Moon. It says, I need to get that info from Phoenix Moon about the upcoming genealogy events that will be taking place in January. Sister Phoenix, let me know where you're going to be. It's time for Moorish World TV 7 to hit the road. Where you going to be, sis? What's going on?
So we're going to do a couple of Zoom classes, but in April, we are going to be in South Carolina. You are more than welcome to come. I even invited Sonetta to our last event, too. You are more than welcome to come. We got a nice little lineup. We'll be in South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina, and Virginia. And we'll be doing that between April and October. And then we'll finish up in October around Indigenous Peoples Day. And of course, we'll be on Randall's Island like we do every year. And definitely catch up with us.
That's culture. That's culture. And I want to be there. I want to be there. And I'm going to make sure Ish keep me on point, because we're going to swap information so I can be there. I want to definitely make sure that I follow this. Because I be in the background watching this stuff, even on Clubhouse. Boy, that thing get nasty.
Right, right.
That thing get nasty. I be like, man, how do we go from looking for knowledge, seeking identity, and seeking our heritage to cussing each other out, inviting people to the private parts and bees? I said, cook is the greatest. What the world? Where that part come from?
You know, a lot of those habits or the pain and dysfunction from other communities spills over. So you really have to make a conscious decision to not bring over certain toxic attitudes and just dysfunctions into other arenas, which is we try to set a tone. I mean, sometimes we all slip, we all keep one foot in the street and it just comes out. But for the most part, we try to make sure that we kind of keep it academic and in the right spirit, you know, of trying to represent. But you're right. We have a long way to go. And sometimes they get real volatile in the Clubhouse streets.
Hey, brother, let me tell you something, Ish.
I'm just, like I just said, the way some of these people talk to me, when they see me and they go smiling and want to know if they can bring it in for a hug afterwards. The nerve of these people. I'm going to tell you, Talk, I saved my roundhouse kick. I still got it, almost 50 years old, and my foot could still go taller than me. I wish they would. They play, you don't know, to get the threats, the anger, the vitriolic banter. It's ridiculous. They threaten.
I feel you.
House, Phoenix Moon. Why? Because I sent my grandma Indian, not because I owe them money or kicked over their sandcastle.
See, I walk out of those type of Twitter spaces and those type of rooms because I can't handle it. Like the way I'm from, when we talk like that, it's supposed to be time to fight. It's not time to talk about nothing. So I just get out because I can't punch you through the phone or through the camera. So I just got to get low. I'm like, I can't do that, you know. So, but on Moorish World TV 7, we want to have a constructive conversation. So what I did was I put my email in there. It's taharkabay@gmail.com, taharkabay@yahoo.com, taharkabay@taharkabay7.com. If you want to have a conversation, somebody put in there, let's have a receipt show. I think it was Davita Carter. Let's have a receipt show. Well, first send me an email. Tell me what you want to have a receipt show about. I would forward it to Ish. I will forward it to Phoenix Moon, Sister Phoenix Moon. And then if it makes sense, I don't think it'll be a problem. But we're not going to sit up here and bump our gums just to entertain the internet. We want to try to make some progress so people can identify their ancestry and get back what was lost.
I'd like to give a demonstration, if I may, Brother Taharko.
Absolutely.
Because cousin Davita is one of our cousins too. And when she says the receipt show, she's coming from the position of, oh, Shorty got the receipts.
Oh, absolutely.
She got receipts because Davita got receipts. So when she says that, like when we go through the genealogy, I just wanted to give a demonstration of kind of what we do to kind of give people a sample of you know how we present information. Is that okay? Just briefly.
Hey, bro, you know my show is the Show Improve show.
Yes, sir.
You already know it. So
true indeed.
Most definitely, I would love to have a receipt show. But what I'm telling, if those who want to challenge, don't come up here bumping the gums and with the filibustering and you got to come with the equal receipts.
So can I show you how we do the genealogy so people can get a sample of kind of what we do?
The floor is yours.
Okay. So I'm going to do the share screen. What does that mean that I'm going to come up on here? Okay.
You share and then I'll allow it.
Okay.
As soon as I see it.
1 minute here. Entire screen. Okay. So I got entire screen on there, I guess.
I don't see it yet.
Okay, 1 second.
There it is.
Okay. So for that, what we do is we would go to somewhere like this is my account, you know, from ancestry.com. See that right there?
Good night. You ain't playing.
Right. So what I would do is let's go to the DNA section. Let's go to DNA and we're going to go through the through line section. As we go to through lines, this gives you these genealogy through lines are generated using Ishmael Bay DNA results that are linked to Ishmael Bey Muhammad, October 4th, my birthday, through my line. So of course, that's my mother, that's my father, respectively. Love them. My grandma right here, right? All my grandparents. So we go back to the farthest, which is going to be the 5 generations. As you go to the 5 generations, you get Mary Polly Bailey. You see the DNA matches, right? William Arthur Sizemore, Levitia, and you have William Randall Hollinger. So these are, of course, my DNA connections. These are my grandparents. So say we went to William Hollinger, we would then go back to the screen of the tree, right? And we would go to William Hollinger. So as we go to the name Hollinger, William Hollinger right here, we would be able to click on that and pull up his information. Now, as we pull up his information, we're able to see, of course, his line. But from that, you pull up things like homestead properties. If you were to pull up his homestead property, you will be able to see that he was given an Indian allotment. That means that he's an American Indian. That's how you got the Indian allotment. Now, mind you, you're using DNA to couple it with the documentation. You would then be able to go to the Glow records, pull up this record, and see the actual record, because this is a patent. This is a land patent. So you're not only doing that, but you can also go to the death record. So as you go to the death records of William Hollinger, you'll see that it says male, race, Indian. This is very important because this is the 1860 census. Mind you, slavery was still taking place. When you died in 1860, you had three options: black, white, and mulatto. I repeat, black, white, and mulatto. So how is this race Indian? Well, let's pull up the actual documentation. Let's view the image. And as you view the image, let's get it nice and big. Let's look at the top of the page. You're going to see William Hollinger and his wife Hetty. And you see how it says black, white, or mulatto. Those were the three choices. They wrote in the word Indian. Okay? Not black, not white, nor mulatto. They wrote in the word Indian for William Hollinger and his wife Hetty. So when you sit there and say, why are you saying that you black? Well, they had the option because they had black people that died in Alabama too, right here. Do you see that, Brother Tarka?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if they had the choice, yes, you could put black on there, but they wrote the word Indian in here. So my point is this: when we pull up the land records and we see the documentation, I could stop the share. I don't know how to stop the share, brother.
I got you.
Okay. But I'm saying that when we're coming with the information and we're saying, look, we're American Indian, they're not saying Native American. They're not saying these other terms that people are trying to use. We're using the terms that our ancestors use and that the treaties use. So I just wanted to clarify, these are the things that we unlock in genealogy class. You may think right on the surface, well, you're either going to be black, white, or mulatto in 1860. No, you got to go look at the records and see that these people were writing in Indian or making an I into a B and making you into black. So those are the things that we look at in these conversations. These are very nuanced and very important situations. Okay.
Yeah, I find that to be pretty amazing right there, because even if someone put up the argument that they didn't name themselves Indian, well, whatever they were, the person that was writing that was saying that you ain't come on no ship.
Yes.
I mean, even if somebody wanted to put up whatever it was, they saying that you were here.
Correct.
Yeah,
and that's just a Creek bloodline. The same documentations for Chickasaw, Cherokee, each one of those Indians that are in that land, they're tied into a specific storyline. And that's all that we try to let people know. Within your lineage is your story. How do you tie into this narrative?
Man,
and wherever it takes you, show. God bless you.
That was crazy right there. That's y'all used to this type of stuff. It's like when I do the Moorish stuff on the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and I drop a bomb on him. That's you just flex drop a bomb on him. It's drop a bomb on him. Phoenix drop a bomb. Yeah, that was a bomb right there, bro. That was a bomb. They mad right now. Listen, I don't endorse anything that I don't fully understand, but right. I can tell you that you can't dispute that there. I'm not as educated on the process. And that's why we have Sister Phoenix Moon and Brother Ishmael Bay here. Let me explain something before I get out here and I let my guests have the last words. and I'll just tell you about the next show. If you're not wise enough to go from a student to a teacher, from a teacher to a student at any given moment, you're never going to learn anything. I'm being a student, and it's okay to be a student. You will only be the teacher if you're able to shift. Now, when it comes to Moorish science, as taught by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, I'm the teacher of that. I'm not the teacher of this. So I want to tell the Moorish World TV 7 audience that if you want to learn, know when the time is appropriate to shift from being a teacher to a student, because he just dropped the bomb with that degree right there. Period, point blank. So I'm going to yield the floor to Ish. Ish can pass it to Phoenix Moon, and we'll get out of here. And I'm going to be connecting with Ish so we can set this up again and see if we can get Sister Davida up in this demonstration. Because she in that, you ever, in Baltimore, they got the Preakness, right? And in the brother, you know about horse racing.
Oh, yes, sir.
You know how the horses be in there getting antsy. I'm not calling sis no horse or not. When they know it's go time,
right,
they kicking the thing, they ready to get busy.
That's right.
Davida up in that thing like, man,
bro, we got a team of thoroughbreds.
Queen, she got that all organized in a phone, and Source Queen, and I'll be looking for one picture out of 30,000 cousin Davidas on it.
That's right.
Brother, she in there kicking, ready to go. She ready to run the Belmont, man. But Ish, take us on out and pass it to our sis, and I'm gonna text you and see when we can set this up again. This is a beautiful build. The floor is yours, brother.
I want to point something out, Brother Taharga, if I may. There's one of the videos that you got. I think it's I don't know a man I can't beat, something like that.
I ain't met a man I can't beat.
I ain't met a man I can't beat. There's a clip in there where we were in the field, and a brother, you know, I think you and Brother Roy Bay are meeting up, but there was a feeling that there was eyes on you, brother, and it was my job to protect you because you trust me, and you kind of set the this is going somewhere. You set the tone as far as willing to meet with Brother Roy Bay, but we were still on high alert. I didn't know that we were being watched. I didn't know that. That's a long shot. That's a long shot. But there was another brother that was coming around that way. And if people look subtly, they'll see I'm a buffer between any harm and you. And I gladly put my life on the line for you, brother.
Right. I'm trying to find it right now.
So I just want the public to know I love you. And I will always be there for you and to protect you and the integrity of what you represent as a man. I love the fact that you're a man that stands on principles. You stand on truth. You represent the prophet at a very high level, and I respect you. So I'm never going to come up and push some pseudo stuff on your platform. I respect your platform, and I bring people that I love to your platform. And, you know, we have those dialogues, the tough conversations about a lot of different things. But you're always there to avail your platform to me and to those that are with me. And I appreciate you for that.
Man,
so I just want to let you know. I want you to know that. And I want your supporters to know that. I'm always here for you. We're here to deal with anything that you want to deal with. Put it on a table. We got the receipts. We loaded up. We locked and loaded at all times. Let's get it popping, baby. Let's go. Moorish World TV.
You gonna make me play this song, but I'm gonna yield the floor to Sister Moon real quick.
Yeah, make sure we go out with that though, brother. Because when that brother, like there's some people that's making some moves there, and I'm like, yo, there's eyes somewhere going around here, and I'm looking around, but then there's a move where the brothers start making a move. I'm like, nah, you know, I'm in FOI mode because my brother's trusting me while he's talking with bro. But I'm gonna make sure I got my brother back.
I'm gonna show you something too with that video real quick. But go ahead, Sister Moon, come on, talk to me, sis.
You just said you from Virginia. I'm probably just 2 little mouse clicks away from cousin. Man, T, what up?
Yeah.
You need to let us help you with your genealogy. Oh my goodness. I just got excited. When I watched the video, I said, because I said, you seem so familiar. You remind me of my uncle, my cousin, like one of my favorite family members. You was upbeat, your skin all glowing and healthy, your teeth all white. And I just said, I like, you know, I would love to come back. I thank you for having us here. I just want to thank you very much. And I wish I met you sooner, but no time like the present. I would love to come back. And I'm good for battle mode too. I can fight ball.
And I'm looking forward to that, sis. And we're going to exchange information because a cousin of Ish is a cousin of mine. Then we're going to get this busy. We're going to get this busy. And I just ask that anybody that choose to dialogue or even debate, we're not going to have a horse and pony show. You're going to have to bring receipts. You're going to have to bring intelligence. You're going to have to bring intellect. That's it. That's what you're going to have to bring. But this is what you're talking about right here. This is the one. Y'all ride out my outro with me. This is the one right here.
He says to Harker Bay, Toronto Johnson, I call for a Moorish World Tv, Toronto Johnson.
Come on, Ish.
And anybody who's riding with him with this scandal, with these videos of him and wife defrauding the people.
I got you some
my brothers and sisters serving these packages when I was with Daweed Ali and them in Taj, and them used to come to Chicago.
Everybody thumbs up.
I laid them all towards the rest. They was dead sleep anyway. Sleepwalking. They keep talking. I probably catch a charge. They don't care what any say. Yeah, I'm the people's grand sheik. And the people's grand sheik. Ain't seen a man like that. Only the gods is my equal. You mortal, you just my sequel.
There we go, Ish. There it comes. Everybody thumbs up. Share the video.
What the 85ers? Dip divers? Trying to symbolize us? You already did. Who done got up in your head? Rent free. You wanna know who sent me? Head. I tried to pull you out the bed, but you got a ball groggy. Started talking real crazy, eyes foggy. Couldn't see through the fog.
There go Ish right there. But Ish, right there beside you, that's probably was the feds over there. But my bro right there with his head turned, you already know. But look.
Then I had to bring the dogs, barking all up in your ear, talking like you don't care, or you don't care, like you don't preserve life.
That's how we do.
You really don't care, right? Or you don't care, right? Well, we gon' really check that, bet that, respect that. Since you ain't waiting to die.
Hey man, I want to thank
I
Ish.
laid them young boys to rest.
I let them all to rest.
They was dead sleep anyway. I laid them old boys to rest. They was sleepwalking anyway. I'm the people's grand sheik. I ain't seen a man I can't beat.
See a man you can't beat.
Boys to rest. They was sleepwalking anyway. I would take you on any day. Michigan, New York, Cali, where you at? What you thought? From that town to Baltimore. Every vulnerable is all raw. They ready, chop. I don't really think they want the problem. Hold up, wake the thought up. Back to Allah, head. I try to get him out the bed. Sleepwalking anyway.
You gotta get him up, Ish.
Sleepwalking anyway. Wake up. Keep talking.
We gotta get him up.
Sleepwalking anyway. Wake up.
Family,
I don't care what any say.
I appreciate y'all.
I'm the people's grand sheik.
Is the people
I ain't seen a man I can't beat.
Move back. Soon as I set it up and talk to Ish, we're gonna bring them back. I wanna bring Sister Davina in the building. She is ready to roll. Keep my
Equals is the gods. You brothers, that's my secret.
Thanks again, family.
He says to Harker Bay,
I see
Toronto Johnson.
dead people. Hey,
I call for a Moorish World Tv, Toronto
me give Neil Bay his flowers now. He said this out of anger, and he thought that he was going to say my name, Toronto Johnson, as if nobody knew my name and he was revealing something. And it became a classic drop. This is the most classic drop that I ever came upon since I've been on YouTube. So, shout out to Neil Bay. What is it?
You just my sequels is the God. Hey, hey, I see stealing people. I lay them old boys to rest. They was dead asleep anyway.
We gotta send up. Let me know the next free day.
I lay them young boys to rest. They was dead asleep anyway. Hey, people study. I ain't never met a man that I can't beat. No. The gods is my only equal. That's it. You mortals, you just my sequel. That's it.
Toronto Johnson.
I call for a march forward on Brother Toronto Johnson and anybody who's riding with him with this scandal.
Thanks again, family. I'm up out of here. Thanks, Ish. Appreciate you. Thank you, Phoenix Moon. I'm setting up something tomorrow. Ish, send me Phoenix Moon information so we can get this thing popping. And when next time you're available,
I be that more you gon' remember.
Appreciate you,
I'ma be that more you gon' remember.
Appreciate you,
I be that more you gon' remember. To Hawker Bay front line till the law call my number. I be that more you gon' remember. I'ma be that more you gon' remember. That's right. I be that more you gon' remember. To Hawker Bay front line till the law call my number. If you a friend of the Moors, then you a friend of mine. I was told to watch my enemies, now hold my line. Those who speak against the prophet, they speak against me. And I'm speaking about the prophet over you, Ali. Who was the first to remind you and bind you back to Morocco, the mountains, Mississippi,
I'ma
and
say it
Tibet.
again.
So
We got new information on the ground.
You tripping off trucks,
We not
tripping off
sheep.
that.
We got
Now
new
here we go
information.
again, acting like you a
Subscribe to
slave. The
Moorish
same
World
people talk
TV.
European behind the seven and look at that
And
women
Moorish World
buying
TV.
European hair.
As well as
They love
Moorish World
themselves, but
Media.
do the men really care?
We going all in.
Cause they got a love
This
for
is
Europe.
ours.
Host
We
generation
making it hot.
feels weed and
We
syrup.
making it hot.
Yeah, they
What up,
all
Nitro?
got it. Suchi,
All the
Gucci,
Indigenous,
Gummy,
all the Indians,
Amigos,
all the
Ross,
Moors,
Deuces,
all
whoever
the people
for the
stand
one
up.
of the
We
fucking
going
fuck. I
in.
guess they say it's
Appreciate
all
y'all
top,
for
but it's
listening.
under the cover. Now, I be that more you gon' remember. Be more. I be that more you gon' remember. That time. I be that more you gon' remember. To Hawker Bay front line till the law call my number. I be that more you gon' remember. LA. I be that more you gon' remember. New York. I be that more you gon' remember. To Hawker Bay front line till the law call my number.